I was standing in the middle of the crowded lobby with blood soaking through the sleeve of my shirt, but everyone kept walking past me like I was invisible. I had just tripped on the broken marble step near the entrance, and a jagged piece of metal had sliced deep into my forearm, leaving me lightheaded and stumbling. I tried to catch the eye of the security guard standing just 10 feet away, but he was busy laughing at something on his phone, his back turned to the very people he was supposed to be watching. I reached out a hand to a woman in a business suit who was power walking toward the elevators, but she stepped around me without even breaking her stride. The noise of the city outside was a dull roar, but inside the lobby it was the sound of 1,000 shuffling feet and the pinging of elevator doors. "Excuse me," I said, my voice sounding much smaller than I intended. "I think I need help." A group of teenagers walked right past me, filming a video and shouting over one another, nearly knocking me over as they surged toward the exit. I felt the floor start to tilt beneath me, the loss of blood and the sudden shock making the edges of my vision go dark and fuzzy. I leaned against a cold stone pillar, trying to apply pressure to my arm with my other hand, but the fabric was already saturated. Finally, I saw someone I recognized, a guy from my apartment building named David who I had talked to dozens of times. "David? Hey, can you help me?" I called out, waving my good hand. He looked right at me, his eyes locking onto mine for a split second, and then he deliberately looked away and increased his pace. He didn't just miss me, he chose not to see me, as if my emergency was an inconvenience he didn't have time to process on a Tuesday afternoon. That was the moment the physical pain was eclipsed by a crushing sense of isolation. I was in a room full of people, in a building where I lived, and I was completely alone. I managed to slide down the pillar until I was sitting on the floor, the cold marble biting through my jeans. I kept waiting for that one person, that good Samaritan everyone talks about, to stop and ask if I was okay. Instead, people just adjusted their paths to avoid the guy sitting on the floor, some of them even looking annoyed that I was blocking the flow of traffic. I pulled my phone out with trembling fingers to call for an ambulance myself, but my hands were so slick with blood that I couldn't get the touchscreen to recognize my thumbprint. I sat there staring at the black screen, feeling the life literally leaking out of me while the world went about its business. Just as I felt my eyes starting to close, a small hand touched my shoulder. It wasn't the security guard or a neighbor. It was a young girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, who had wandered away from her mother near the mailboxes. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice clear and piercing in the cavernous room. Her mother ran over a second later, looking ready to scold her daughter for talking to a stranger, but then she saw my arm in the puddle forming on the floor. "Oh my God," she screamed, and that scream finally broke the spell of indifference that had settled over the lobby. Suddenly everyone cared. The security guard came running over, looking frantic, and 3 different people pulled out their phones to call 911. David, the guy from my building, actually walked back over and tried to offer me his handkerchief, but I just looked at him until he backed away. The paramedics arrived a few minutes later, and as they loaded me onto the stretcher, the lobby went back to its usual hum of activity. I watched the woman and her daughter through the glass doors as the ambulance pulled away. And I realized that most people don't actually see you until someone else gives them permission to notice.